Well, hello, and a Happy New Year to you all. Well, I hope you had a decent Christmas, and like me, you avoided being a shopping lemming and had a quiet week afterwards to recover from the festive season. I got round to reading a few things which set me thinking about the year past. More specifically about two events which at first sight may seem unconnected, but which I think are two events with the same underlying cause. The first was the suspension from his duties of the Reverend Dr. Bernard Randall. If the name rings a faint bell, you may recall he was chaplain of Trent College, an independent school in the suburbs of Nottingham, which, like many independent schools, describes itself as a Christian school. A body called Educate and Celebrate, which states it helped school eradicate bullying of homosexuals, got its feet under the table and began feeding the youngsters with classic gay propaganda. Pupils were soon asking Dr. Randall questions such as, are there more than two sexes? And so on. Since he saw his role as helping students think their way through the ethical problems that accompany growing up, Dr. Randall decided to do a sermon in chapel addressing their questions. Now you can see the text of his sermon online. It is carefully phrased, totally unpolemical, and even-handed to the point of being boringly bland. But it offended the gay orthodoxy, which does not like to be questioned, and can react vindictively when it is. Dr. Randall was suspended from his duties and currently awaits an employment tribunal next September. The other event in 2020 needs no introduction: the defeat of the West in Afghanistan. At the time, rumours circulated that the Taliban were little more than a front for the Chinese or the Russians. Undoubtedly, the Taliban's arms were largely of Russian origin. But you and I could equip ourselves with Kalashnikovs if we had the money and the inclination. And Afghanistan has been left to its own poverty and chaos by the Eastern superpowers. The Chinese and the Russians have not taken over. The retreat of the West was undignified and humiliating, and built on a miscalculation. Having spent 2 decades equipping and training government forces, the West assumed they could be left to hold their own against the terrorists. As it was, they collapsed like a house of cards, and their surrender was swift and abject. Why? Well, victorious armies are prepared to fight for and die for what they really believe in. What were the government forces in Afghanistan being asked to believe in? A tweet from the American Embassy in Kabul last June is revealing. It states, quote, "The month of June is recognised as LGBTI Pride Month," unquote, and on it goes. And then shows a rainbow flag flying over the US Embassy. Now, whether you like it or whether you don't, the fact remains that the third world considers homosexuality a gross sin and will have nothing to do with it. If you wanted to do anything to undermine morale in government troops and help the Taliban point to the West as the seat of Satan, this is what you would do. Now, by now you may be saying to yourself, well, the USA is a far more Christian country than we are, both in belief and practice. And many American Christians are opposed to the LGBTI agenda. Didn't they try to bring some of their Christian beliefs into Afghanistan? Indeed they did. Christian soldiers arrived with copies of the Bible in the native languages of Pashto and Dari. Fearing that their use in evangelism might cause disquiet among the natives, the Bibles were taken by the authorities, confiscated and burnt. Thus, the West ended up promoting not the beliefs on which our power and prosperity historically have been founded, but the kind of woke values which have tried to cancel Dr. Randall. Small wonder the Afghan government forces capitulated so quickly. They were being asked to fight for a system of beliefs which were even more abhorrent to them than those of their enemies. Well, Afghanistan's a long way away. And I've lost my place, bear with me. Where are you? Oh, we were, right. Well, Afghanistan's a long way away, and events there don't need worry us, do they? You sure? Throughout the Old Testament, Israel is independent when it holds to its life with God. When it turns to other beliefs and practices, it falls into the hands of conquerors. Will God allow the West to retain its power and influence in the world if it actively promotes a system of beliefs opposed to his nature and opposed to his word? I think not. I suggest we would do ourselves good if, in the year ahead, we turn back to God and his ways of thinking and his ways of living. Happy New Year to you all. Bye-bye.